All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Monday. Hey, if you disagree with us and our thoughts on the Vegas Golden Knights and the Gallant situation, hit us up on Twitter at the Vegas Take, and we will gladly respond to that. But I think we're certainly on the right when it comes to the way Gallant handled that press conference. But want to move on now. Obviously, some big gambling weekends coming up. There was one over the weekend, of course, with some big NFL games that took some pretty big handles as far as from a sports gambling perspective. And now we've learned that New Hampshire has become the 14th state to legalize sports gambling. Well, the guy we have with us on the line right now, this is what he does for a living. He covers this stuff. His name is Brett Smiley, and he works for sportshandler.com. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I like the Green Day intro and glad to be with you guys.
No problem. Yeah, we're in that 90s alternative rock grunge era, right?
One of us is. One of us is internally in that era.
Yeah, but you're like millennial / I don't know what I would call JD, but anyway. So Brett, what do you make of this? Now, New Hampshire becoming the 4th state to legalize. What do you make of that?
Well, did you say 14th? It's hard to keep track, but it's something closer to 20th. Although
it's
not
20.
in every state has it actually begun yet. New Hampshire is interesting because they don't have any traditional casinos. They have some sort of charity things. They're doing the law allowed up to 5 mobile sports books and some local ones, but what they decided to do is have an RFP process and get a bunch of bids, and effectively they just chose one. They're using DraftKings Sportsbook, and so there'll be no competitive marketplace other than the lottery's own thing. So I think that's the most notable aspect of what's going on there. I don't think it's a good thing for anyone except DraftKings. And maybe the lottery to a lesser extent. So on the one hand, it's good to see more states coming around. On the other hand, wish they would allow some open competition.
So speaking of DraftKings, they were just given a valuation of $3.3 billion. That seems pretty high to me, considering they've only been around for, at a national media level for about 2 years. Do you think the number's going to go up, and do you see any competitors coming through?
Honestly, I don't know. I didn't dig into their financials. There are some others who may have. I think that was all together with SB Tech, which already has a number of partners, and but they're looking for that capital infusion so they can make it into some additional states, such as Michigan, which just there's a couple new sports books that have basically gained access to Michigan today.
Yeah, another state in the Midwest that just legalized is Iowa, my home state. And in month 3, they did $60 million in handle, which I was actually surprised it would be that high. I think a market of that size, I think a mature market for the state of Iowa, in a year and a half, once they're not just betting football and basketball, once they're betting all the sports, I think it can be close to $250 to $300 million a month. Do you agree with that?
253. I don't think that's crazy. I think the ceiling will be raised this time next year, because right now you have to go physically into a sports book to open an online account.
Right.
Whereas in New Jersey, from the northern part of the state where I am, I could access any of the books that are available through Atlantic City just by going online. So the point is, there'll be more accounts open and more wagers placed. People will like books they like better, and so that'll increase, which doesn't answer your question. And I don't think 250 is unreasonable. What is there, like 3.5 million people there, and obviously a lot of college fanatics?
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing to do, and I think that you're going to see that in a lot of these Midwestern states where there just isn't a lot going on. Gambling is something that they enjoy doing, along with drinking, and maybe together at the same time, which makes the results even worse, which is great for the books. So New Jersey did $556 million, I believe, last month. They've done almost $4 billion since legalizing in May of 2018. Do you think they're going to pass Vegas eventually as the epicenter as far as handle?
That's kind of the ongoing question. There was 1 month early. It was kind of one of those kind of down months in May when March Madness is over and NBA is not in the playoffs yet. Population-wise, they should be able to. Pennsylvania maybe clawed back a little bit of the clientele was there, and New York will finally come around. But I think it's a reasonable assumption that maybe the next 3-4 years, New Jersey is a little bit higher than where Nevada is, and that's although Nevada just established their own new record for a single month with 614 something in
Right.
If you're
in December. So people are always wondering, is the nationwide legalization, is that going to harm or kind of depress Nevada a little bit on the sports betting front? I don't think so, because I think we're just going to continue to see more people who may have never bet on sports before or did some fantasy sports. They're getting involved and interested, and still the largest and nicest sports books are and will probably remain out in Nevada. So I think ultimately this will help them.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Brett Smiley. He's from sportshandle.com. This is what he does for a living, covering this stuff. So, Brett, let me ask you this question. With all the states now that have legalized sports gambling, I don't think you could make the argument on the other side of this. It is stronger and more popular than it has ever been, certainly from a legality standpoint. The big Super Bowl game is right around the corner, not that far away. Do you think that it will break all records this year and there will be more money bet on the Super Bowl than ever before?
Well, it's a little difficult because the estimates made about the volume of wagering with illegal offshores and local bookmakers, nobody really, they're just guesstimates. Something like 150 or $200 billion annually. We do now have a lot more states that are reporting their figures. But the point is there really isn't a full accounting. Now, that said, given the much wider availability now, you can legally bet, and will soon in more states, but about 14 or 15 or whatever it is now. Yeah, I think I would certainly bet that there'll be more wagered legally between legal and illegal channels this year than in any year past. With the caveat that let's hope it's a good Super Bowl. I'm glad the Patriots were eliminated, but at least there'll be some new blood. If it's something like Ravens-Packers, that would be pretty widely viewed game and bet.
Yeah, that would be a very, very widely viewed game. Honestly, I think either way, it could be the Titans and the Vikings. There's so many states now that have legalized sports betting, and the NFL made a statement earlier. They said, our product. Well, they didn't say their product was down, but to me, their product is down. But their ratings are through the roof because sports betting has been legalized in more states. So another state that I think is probably the most important in the grand scheme of things with sports betting is California. And California, the tribes have had some conversations about, again, California, it's very, very tribe. They own most of the casinos, but they've had some conversations about legalizing it. And I think that California in a mature market can do almost $200 billion a year just in California. What's the update with them?
There's actually a hearing on Wednesday. There was a couple bills introduced. One of them would allow betting through the tribes only on premises, which is pretty much doesn't do any good in terms of allowing people to bet legally across the state.
Right.
And there's kind of just a battle over exclusivity, and there's card rooms want a piece, and the racetracks all want. So the conversation is happening, and they're seeing more and more states have legalized. I don't know California politics well enough to know when they might coalesce around a certain idea, but the fact that Michigan got something done after a lot of work in a state where was a very big tribal presence, that's promising. Should be promising to others, in states such as California, Minnesota, where that might be an impediment.
How big of a sports channel do you think they could have yearly in California in a mature market?
Oh, California,
yeah.
What is this, 55 million people there?
Yeah, 55 million people.
Let's see. New Jersey is doing about, let's say it'll be 5 billion, some napkin math, 80 billion. I don't know, after year two with the fully open mobile market.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk about the next 2 or 3 states that you think are going to legalize sports betting that no one's really talking about.
Yeah, right. And the sessions are beginning, legislative sessions in most of these states right now. So let's go right underneath Michigan. There's Ohio. There have been proposals in both the House and Senate. There's plenty of casinos there. I think they're just fighting over who would have control, the lottery or the gaming commission. I think Ohio will happen sometime in the next few months. Also Kentucky right below them, and Kentucky's kissing Missouri. They've been talking about it for 3 sessions now. And then let's just go for the full axis in the middle. Virginia they have not had casinos. That's like a totally non-gaming state, but they're looking to bring some into Norfolk and other parts of the state, and that's kind of paving the way for sports betting. So those four, and then probably Massachusetts and Connecticut up in the Northeast sometime this year. But as Tennessee taught us, it's hard to predict. So
I just wanted to mention Connecticut real quickly. We just saw that Adam Sandler movie over the weekend, and I grew up around Mohegan Sun. We can all confirm that Mohegan Sun does not have a sports book, right?
Correct. Yeah, I've been to Mohegan a few times. Up from upstate New York. Yes, that's correct. I don't know why they chose that as a as a plot
that
point.
was why do you think that? Okay, I understand when you mention the name
because he's in New York.
No, but I understand when you mention the name Mohegan Sun 10 times, they probably let them film there for free. I'm sure they had some sort of deal worked out. But you have Atlantic City like a couple. It was just weird that they picked that casino.
I agree with that.
I don't understand that.
Point.
I don't get that, why they picked an Indian reservation in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut to place that bet. That was just, I liked the movie. I thought it was a great movie, and it didn't ruin it for me, but I just thought it was weird, Brett. That's all.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I guess if you're paying Adam Sandler's $50 million, I don't know why you need to fudge it on that one.
Yeah, and by the way, last I checked, you cannot do a $160,000 parlay on the tip of an NBA basketball game, along with who wins the game and along with points, rebounds, and assists. Last time I checked, I don't think you could find one sports book that would take a bet like that.
Yeah, they took a few liberties there for sure. It was nice to see Adam Sandler in a dramatic role, but I don't know who is advising on that part of the story.
So if Kentucky legalizes, that would just be massive for horse racing. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes and no. Well, it was phenomenal for Meadowlands Racetrack, which was not doing so great, and that's adjacent to New York City in New Jersey, and Monmouth Track as well. It's certainly an additional form of revenue. I guess it just depends on how it's implemented. As long as they're okay with having a mobile component as well as retail, a lot of the people in the horse race industry are a little backwards. They just assume we need to get kids here and then they'll see the horses. But if they view it as another opportunity and extension, I think it would benefit more them that way. But there's certainly potential.
Oh, Brett, before we let you go, we always appreciate your insight on these issues. Anything that comes to sports gambling, we always like to hear from you. Can you give out the information, how people follow you on social media, and talk, please, a little bit about your website, sportshandle.com?
Yeah, thanks. It's follow us on Twitter at sports_handle. The website is sportshandle.com, and there's a few other sites in our network that are focusing on some of the states that are pretty active, such as Pennsylvania. So just most of it is available on the Twitter feed, and we are trying to stay on top of all the things that we talked about here. And even actually, one of my colleagues did a review of Uncut Gems as well. So,
oh, cool.
Anything sports gambling, we're probably covering it.
Cool. Well, I'll say this. If I have $160,000 to spend, I will certainly give it to you to make a parlay at Mohegan Sun for me, okay?
Very reasonable.
When Mohegan Sun has a sports book, I will go there and do that.
Cool. You're really my guy. Hey, Brett, always appreciate it when you come on, my man. Thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you soon. Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brett.
There you go. Take care. Brett Smiley from sportshandle.com. Man, he's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about, and this is a very exciting time in the sports gambling industry.
It is insane. The first time we had Brett Smiley on, I think there was 3 states with legalized sports.
Yeah, that was like
Delaware.
About a year and a half ago.
Yeah, West Virginia had just done it. New Jersey, Vegas, or Nevada, obviously.
But don't worry, folks.
He's making it sound like there's going to be about 30 states by the end of next year with legalized sports betting, and some big states. Michigan.
Mm-hmm. But don't worry, folks.
Illinois.
It ain't taking any money away from Las Vegas. I can assure you of that.
It's helpful because all it's doing is the people that have been visiting Vegas and not betting sports, they're now more knowledgeable, and it's less taboo. So now when they visit Vegas, they're now betting sports.
They know what they're doing.
Because they're still going to visit Vegas. That's the whole key. Unless the parking fees go up and these goddamn resort fees go up.
Throwing obscenities. I never heard you swear on this show before.
I'm dropping one because I am tired of resort fees.
What a potty mouth.
I have had enough of them.
I've never heard you swear on this show before.
A resort fee, along with the parking, can just decimate a vacation. And I've had family visit here and complained to me multiple times about it. I am tired of resort fees.
So all the things we talk about on our show, all the serious subjects and the horrible things that people say to one another, the decision-making of our politicians, terrorist attacks, shootings, and I've never seen you more angry than when it comes to resort fees and parking in Las Vegas. I just find that interesting. That's all. I've never seen you get that angry.
Well, in my opinion, if they keep it up, it is going to deter traffic from Las Vegas,
Well,
which is
I
a
agree.
bad thing for us, for the city, for a lot of people that I'm connected to and that you're connected to.
We've always called that out on this show when
man.
they charge for parking. It is ridiculous. It's absurd.
I mean, if you pay a resort fee and you pay for parking and you get dinner on the strip at a decent restaurant, you're looking at $400-$500
Look, they
for
do
four people right now.
The way they do it downtown is the right way.
I totally agree.
If you walk into the casino and you give them any type of business, you could be a $5 blackjack player or you can go to Subway. I don't care. They will stamp your parking pass and you don't have to pay to park. That's the way it should be if you have a Las Vegas, Nevada, if you have a Nevada driver's license. Now, if you're a tourist, forget it. But if you're in Las Vegas and you live here, you should not have to pay to park. That is ridiculous. And these greedy bastards that run some of these casinos, it's a joke. And I'm tired of it. We agree. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, boy, do we have a lot of football and basketball to talk about. Of course, UNLV was in action over the weekend. Pretty good weekend for them. We'll talk a little bit about that. My prediction that San Diego State was going to beat Utah State was correct. They did win that game on the road. And, gosh, can you believe who is going to be the next football coach in the NFL for Mr. McCarthy? We're going to talk a little bit about that and some of the big-name quarterbacks that are now out of the playoffs after this weekend. That and much, much more right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.